Welcome to the physical storage structure. Okay, let me just recap. When we install the Oracle product through the Oracle installer, um, that when and we choose the option creating the database as a default option, it created two directory structures. Okay, the first directory structure on Linux somewhat looks like U01 app Oracle product 11.1.0. Okay, in which the first part U01 app Oracle is called Oracle base, and Oracle base is a directory structure where if you have multiple Oracle homes, like right now we are interested in Oracle RDBMS, but tomorrow you want to have a different version of a client, Oracle client, or Oracle J2E J2E server you want to install on the same machine, you could choose to install under the same base. So up to the base, it's a kind of a root directory for Oracle, and on this base you can have multiple kind of products installed. So in our case, we are installing Oracle Home, right? We are installing Oracle RDBMS product that will be installed U01 app Oracle product 11.1.0, so on and so forth. So if and similarly there will be this is the first one, right? And similarly there will be also there will be Aura data, which is actually the database. Let's say we are installing that in a different drive for a different purpose, because most of the Oracle binaries or the software is for reading or executing it, but easy to do it need to be for read write data, because the actual Oracle data will be saved here. So we are calling that as a Aura underscore data, and it can go on U02 Aura data. So in these two directory structures, first one is the software, second one is actual database, right? So now coming back to the coming back from the image of Oracle architecture class, we discussed that in a database you have three kinds of files. One, control file, another data file, third redo log file. Just remember as CDR files: control files, data files, redo log files. So these three redo log files, these three types of file go into Aura data. So this makes up a database. Whenever you want to back up a database, you must need these three of them, and to put it on another database or with another instance. Similarly, like database files, you also have some of these yellow color files, which are parameter file, password file, archive log file, and I have not given a picture of trace files. Call it as trace files. Okay, trace files. So these also are required to run a system, but they are not part of a database. So let me write them: parameter file, password file, archive file, and trace files. Okay, and can you guess where these files can go to go? These files will be stored in the binary structure or in the software structure in order in 10G and above. Okay, and now 11G onwards, they have been storing under Oracle base in a different directory structure called product admin. Under admin, you will have again a directory structure which will take the parameter file, password file, and archive log files. Okay, these two parameter files and password files will be saved in DBS directory. Okay, whereas archive log files you can choose to have in completely a different drive, because these are just we will be doing lots of writing, but not as much as a read and write as we do on the Aura data. Okay, so you can have a file structure like this. Now, saying that, let's focus on each one of these files one more time so that we can understand management of all these files. So after we understand what are these files and how do we manage how do we manage these files. We will be practicing those management. So when I say manage in database terms, it's going to be three things. One, how to create them in first place, right? And two, how to modify them once we create it. Time to time we have some changes, some modifications required. How do we modify them? And sometimes, eventually for some reasons you may want to delete the file. So how do we delete them? So we will be learning about all of these and when do they come into play and how these interactions work in and when we are discussing this physical storage structure. As we discussed in architecture of the class, the control files define other to define the structure of the database. They define basically where the database files are, where the data files are, and also where are the redo log files and what are their names. Along with that, they also store system change name number, which is basically every time you modify some data, that will issue a system change number when the commit is issued, and those will be recorded on log file and data file. So with that information, when the system is coming up, control file will be able to decide whether data files and redo log files are in sync and all the required data files and redo log files are available on the system, and whether it can do a read write as needed. So that's why the control files are called heart of the database, because without that the database cannot run. That's the first one which come into the play. Now, data files are actually the files where the dictionaries data and as well as the user data will be stored here. User, or let's say app, let's say if you are installing accounts payable or Oracle application, Oracle apps where entire ERP will be stored, all this ERP related data will be there in the data files. Okay. So these are the real data files, and redo log files, whereas stores the change or transaction information in the database, meaning let transaction information. Meaning, let's say you updated some record or updated some table, the before and after update data, and as well as the SQL or SQL information, which is system change number and timestamp, will be stored in the redo log file. This will be used, as the name suggests, read for the redo action. So if database shut down in between, the control file tells the latest changes are available in redo log file, and those will be applied from the redo log file. Okay. Now these three make up as a database. That's why we have this is in a blue color. Okay. So these are the three we'll call as a database files. Now on the left hand side you have a parameter password file, and right hand side you have archived log files. Let me explain them as well. The parameter file is also called as a configuration file. So what it means is, if you be using this, you will be defining an instance, defining how big your SG need to be, how big your buffer cache need to be, what are the control file locations and names of the control file, what is the database name, what is the instance name. All those details will be going into the parameter file. So when instance is not created, the parameter file is the one which defines how instance need to be configured and created. You will be using that. So that's the first file which coming into the play. Okay. Next is the password file. Password file is used for sys users authentication. So when they are connecting a sysdba, if we are storing the password file will be storing a common password for all sysdbas, and if they are connecting local or remote, they'll be authenticated with this. And even when the instance is not up, system or sysdbas will be connecting and starting a database, and when the database is not up, the password file will be helpful authenticating their password. Okay, so that's what the password file for. Archived log files. So for this I want to just give you a little bit theory on the redo log files. So we all understood from our previous architecture class, archived redo log files are used to store the changes happening in the redo log buffer to a redo log file. So let's say you have three files. Okay, in beginning of the system, you will be writing to the first file. If the first file gets written completely, it'll system the log writer will write to the second file. If second file gets full, it'll write to the third file. Now once the third file is also full, what need to be done will be decided on two things. One, whether system is in archive log mode or no archive log mode. How to enable this archive log mode, I'll be explaining you in detail when we get into the archive log mode class. But if it's no archive log mode, system will just overwrite the first file and use it. Okay, and all the changes which are happening in the first file will be lost. But if you have it in a this was no archive log mode. If you have it in an archive log mode, what system does is before overwriting the first file, it will write to another file called archive log file, and after that it overwrites the first file content. So the file contents of online redo log file contents are written into archived file. So these will be kept for whatever time you need to keep it. So next, again, after the first is written, second has active content. Before writing the second content, it will write to the second archive log file and then overwrites the previous information. Similarly, third, so on and so forth. As the time goes by, there will be more number of archive log files. So if you're taking a full backup, between the full backups, the files which are there, it's kind of obsolete. You don't need them. So when we go talk about archive log files, we will be discussing further about these details. But this is just to give you a kind of an overview of all these files, what they do and how they come into play. Now, trace files. Trace files are stored in admin directory, and in admin directory you will have a dump, b dump, c dump, u dump. Okay, so these stands for u stands for user dump and binary dump, so on and so forth. So in these locations in these locations you will have, let's say b dump, you will have alert log file. Okay, so this will record all the things happening in the database, like system data errors, warnings, critical warnings. All those will be written into this file. So we need to monitor this file, and this file will be part of trace files, and all these files, as I mentioned before, will be stored under Oracle base directory structure. Okay, coming to the network files, I will be taking a class on network architecture. There I will be talking about listener.ora, and as well as tnsnums.ora. So these tnsnums.ora. So there I'll be giving a better picture of it. For now, I just want you to have understanding of what are database files and what are system required files, but these are not part of a database. Okay, so this is just a briefing on the database files and these things, and we'll continue the class for each file and how do we manage these files.